What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, continuing with the 7-round mock draft series where we're doing the Green Bay Packers. You know what it is, the best mock drafts you're going to find here on YouTube. I guarantee it. You're going to like the way you look. So we are doing the Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk about free agency, the 2016 draft, and see if that could set up a very solid 7-round mock for them here in 2016, 2017. I have to actually change the mock draft a little bit. Players stay the same. We're just going to shuffle them around here from the first to second round. It is kind of tough for the Packers because I do think there's two glaring needs, and it's one of those things as an Eagle fan where it's tough because I know one of the needs, as I've talked with Packer fans, they don't think running backs are big of a need, but I think they are going to want a running back. Secondary, they have to surely address the secondary, but they got Davin House in free agency. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all this stuff. Let's just jump right into the video. Let's stop fucking around. So last year the Packers went 10-6. They had the 8th overall offense, the 22nd overall defense. They surely have to work on the defensive side of that ball. The MVP for me last year was Aaron Rodgers, even though I hated the overall MVP talk, because essentially they said that, with Aaron Rodgers, he was sucked, and then he got good. So that's why we should give him the MVP. No, you don't give a guy the MVP because he sucked and then turned it around. It was an excellent season. As an Eagle fan, I thank you, everyone that supports the Green Bay Packers, everyone in the Green Bay Packers, for not only being the Giants, but being the Cowboys in the playoffs. But Aaron Rodgers did not deserve the MVP last year. It was Matt Ryan's trophy all year long. But Aaron Rodgers, he's the best. I think if I was starting a team, I'd still take Aaron Rodgers as my starting quarterback. So the needs for the Green Bay Packers before free agency started, I had as running back, cornerback, and linebacker. They think, to a lesser extent, they could look at maybe reloading the interior of their offensive line and looking at edge rushers. So before free agency, they released James Starks, which freed up $3 million in cap. He had some non-football injury, was the reason why they got rid of him. So that, B+. Obviously, I think they're trying to reload there at the running back spot. They released Sam Shields, which freed $8.5 million worth of cap. He has the concussion issues, B-. They re-signed Nick Perry to a 5-year, $60 million deal. I'm giving that a B grade. Best year as his career last year. But, it is a little bit concerning. Yeah, he's either going to be like a kind of Drake Kirkpatrick, where it wasn't really a whole lot. It wasn't anything special until last season, but maybe he's finally just putting it all together, and you have to kind of, invest on that. It's a Packers thing to, re-sign their own. That's what they do ahead of time. They're usually very quiet in free agency, bringing in other guys. So that was a good move for them. They need edge rushers. They signed Martellus Bennett to a 3-year, $21 million deal. I'm giving that an A. That is a phenomenal pickup. That's now they have the best tight end that's ever featured in an offense that's had Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion. They signed Lance Kendricks to a 2-year, $4 million deal. I'll give that a C. And then they signed and brought back Davin House, who was actually fairly good, and they decided to cash out, go to free agency, sign with the Jags. I think House actually, even though he graded pretty shit last year, Pro Football Focus, he's a good fit for Green Bay. He succeeded there before. Why couldn't he do it again under Dom Capers? I think that's actually under the radar signing because they know how to use him. Maybe he's fallen off a little bit. That could probably be why he played like trash and didn't get a whole lot of snaps with the Jaguars, but I like the signing. So before we jump into this 2017 7-round, let's look at how they did in 2016. I was, meh. I was meh with the Packers last year. I thought in the first round, they got Kenny Clark. I thought that was a reach. I thought Kenny Clark was a second-round pick through and through. I'm not sure. Let's see what he did last year statistically. He had 21 tackles. That was it. So I firmly believe that was a reach. But I do like the pick of Kenny Clark. I just don't think he should have been taken in the first round. In the second round, they got Jason Spriggs, who was really the uber-athletic offensive lineman last year. Not a lot of starting snaps for him, but there's upside. Third round, they got Kyler Fackrell, the outside linebacker from Utah State. I liked him. 2 fourth-round picks. They got Dean Lowry, the defensive end from Northwestern, and Blake Martinez, inside linebacker from Stanford. I like the Blake Martinez pick, and I actually think he saw the field quite a bit. Had 69 tackles, a sack, 4 pass deflections, and an interception. So that's great value there from a fourth-rounder. I'm not necessarily sure what the Packer fan base thinks about Blake Martinez, but I think there is some upside there. To go with the linebacker, I can't remember the name of the other linebacker they have. What is his name? I think he was from from Michigan. Jake Ryan, I think his name, Jake Ryan. I think he's actually fairly solid, not phenomenal. 5th round, they got Trevor Davis, wide receiver from Cal, and 6th round, they got Kyle Murphy, offensive tackle from Stanford. I like that. I had Kyle Murphy mocked to the Eagles in a couple mock drafts last season. So overall, not a bad draft. Again, the only thing that stands out to me was I thought Kenny Clark in the first round was a bit of a reach. They could have went somewhere else, but it is what it is. That's what they decided to do. And not a bad draft. Packers usually have solid drafts, not spectacular drafts, and I think last year followed that mold. But let's see if this year we can have a spectacular draft for the Green Bay Packers. So now let's jump into that 7-round mock. So originally, I did this mock draft. I did all my mock draft before most of the pro days. And the guy that I originally taken in the first round was Fabian Moreau, the corner from UCLA, but he had collarbone or something like that, or I don't know, whatever injury he had. He had to get surgery on it. He says he's going to be ready, but I think with that injury, he's going to slip. So I'm pretty much swapping my first and second round pick because, again, the second round might have been a little bit of reach, and now that I kind of switched these positions, it definitely seems like that is the more probable thing to happen in this year's draft class. So, Packer fans, officially, I had corner as the most imminent need, but because of the injury, I still think the prospect fits, but we'll just switch what round he's picking. So, with the first round, pick 29, I'm selecting Alvin Kamara from the University of Tennessee, 5'11", 214 pounds, 4.56 40, had great vertical and broad jump showing off phenomenal athleticism, and this guy here is, definitely a guy I definitely think is a fringe first round talent. More so, I don't want to get on the Dalvin Cook hate train, but I think Kamara is a lot closer in terms of talent and production to Dalvin Cook than a lot of people are giving him credit. There is the issue that he wasn't a full-time starter at Tennessee, kind of was a compliment back to Jalen Hurd, but when he did see starting snaps, this guy is a dynamic player and is a perfect fit. I just think that with Green Bay, you cannot go in with Todd Montgomery as your starting running back. What they had last year is not acceptable. They need to find some balance to that offense because Aaron Rodgers is not going to be able to be Mr. Incredible every week. You need to be able to rely on something. And Montgomery had one big game at everything. He's not a natural running back. So get a guy like Alvin Kamara that can fit into that scheme, do the same kind of essentially routes out of the backfield that a player like Todd Montgomery can, but he has the explosiveness, the natural vision that a running back has. And I think adding a playmaker at the running back spot should be a priority for the Green Bay Packers. I did say before, just to be clear, that corner was where I originally went because of an injury. The corner will be there in the second round for sure, I believe. And you can still get a guy that is a phenomenal starter there. But Alvin Kamara in the first round, again, maybe a little bit of a reach, potentially. But I think a guy like Kamara, for what he can bring to that Packers offense, he's an upgrade over Montgomery. You have a natural running back that can catch and do all the things that Montgomery did, except he's actually a running back. You got to have someone that can actually use that great offensive line. Bulaga, Barkley, Lindsey, David Bakhtiari. These guys here are great offensive linemen. Having a guy that's not natural and, everything's, he's seeing black and blue while you guys are seeing a full color of things. That's a terrible analogy. But that's what it is when you're not a natural running back. The vision, find the holes and stuff like that, it's not natural to you. So get a playmaker like Alvin Kamara there in the first round. And then you go. Pair him with Martellus Bennett, two big-time instant impact guys that can help Green Bay make a serious run for the Super Bowl next year. Then in the second round, pick 61. I originally had him as the first round pick. Because of the injury, he will slide, and I think he'll be tremendous value in the second round. Same, not a series of an injury as Sidney Jones, obviously, but still injury. I have them going with Fabian Moreau, the corner from UCLA, 6 feet tall, 205 pounds, 4.35 40, 38-inch vertical, 136-inch broad jump, 11.45, 60-yard shot. This guy tested out of the fucking water. Explosive athlete. I think technique's really the only thing he needs to work on, but he can tackle. He's a willing tackler. He's a press corner. Can do everything. Man, outside. I think a little bit worried if he does zone, but I think, he stacks up well with what they have there right now. I think you have Randall, who shouldn't really be playing on the outside. He should be a nickel. You got Davon House, who they're hoping can come back and get the same kind of form that he hit before he left for free agency. So I think a guy like Moreau, you might not, the Green Bay, you look at their secondary, you may want to get a guy that can come in and start immediately, but I think you can wean in a guy like Moreau. I don't think he's going to miss nearly as much time as Sidney Jones did, and just because of the injury concerns, that's probably why he will slip to the second round. But if he's healthy, he's a starter on this Green Bay Packers secondary. No doubt about it. So in the second round, getting a starter to improve a secondary that needs to get better, there you go. Great pick right there for the Green Bay Packers. Jump to the third round, pick 93. Either addressing the interior offensive line. That's Isaac Asiata, the offensive guard from Utah, 6'3", 325 pounds, 35 reps on the bench press. That's all we really need to talk about. I'm going to stop referencing the 40-yard times for offensive line. Unless you're a tackle. Tackle maybe. You want a fast tackle. Guy that can run and lead block. But I think a mauler like Isaac Asiata, the Green Bay Packers have absolutely made a living on hitting with between rounds 3 and 5 offensive linemen. I think there should be some competition at the guard spot. Don Barkley and Lane Taylor aren't spectacular, I can say that. So I think adding competition there, adding some depth in Isaac Asiata would be very good there. Big mauler. Get some guy that can help Alvin Kamara dominate. I do think Alvin Kamara, not super sold on him, more so than a Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon. But he can win Offensive Rookie of the Year here in Green Bay. And I think getting a primary big mauling run blocker in Isaac Asiata would be tremendous value. And a guy that can compete right now in the third round with Lane Taylor and a Don Barkley for a starting guard spot. Jumping to the 4th round, pick 134. I'm going Elijah Lee, the linebacker from Kansas State, 6'3", 230 pounds. Super, super quick linebacker. I think that's what they need to add here. They have, guy that can go drop back in coverage, not a liability. As much as I like Clay Matthews, Jake Ryan, Blake Martinez, these guys aren't phenomenal dropping back into coverage. They're not going to match up particularly well against tight ends. Get a guy like Elijah Lee, 4th round. Probably not going to start, not necessarily a screaming scheme fit because you want big-time thumpers, but they need to get some guys in linebacking core that can cover the tight ends, that can cover the running backs out the backfield, and a guy like Elijah Lee in the 4th round can come in, get starting snaps right away in different sub-packages where you go up against teams that you need to shut down their pass-catching tight end or you need to shut down their pass-catching running back. So I think just add a different dimension to the linebacking core that's not there right now in the 4th round. Great pick here for the Green Bay Packers. Jumping to the 5th round, pick 172. I'm going Jadar Johnson, the safety from Clemson, 6 feet tall, 205 pounds, ran a 4.60 40, 19 reps on the bench press. This guy here is a big-time thumper. NFL Pro comparison is to Sean Gibson, who he's been meh with the Jags, but he's with the Cleveland Browns. This guy here was a ball hawk. I don't think Johnson nearly has the ball hawk playmaking ability, but he is a big-time explosive athlete. With great ball skills, not to really throw shade. I mean, Gibson was getting 6, 7, 8 interceptions playing half the season, and I don't think you kind of throwing a guy like Sean Gibson. You're getting a Malik Hooker territory, with the ball abilities. But I think a guy like this, that really does need to work on his run support, but you can more have him play and learn behind a Clinton-Dix or Morgan Burnett and just bring him in as a depth guy. I mean, Kentrell Bryce had himself a pretty decent-looking playoff, but you saw some liabilities in the coverage game. I think if you can have more depth back there, a guy with a little bit better ball playmaking skills, and it's not a liability in coverage in Jadar Johnson. The 5th round, come in, contribute on special teams right away, and add some depth to the safety because they just need to start getting different, fresh faces there in the secondary for Green Bay and helping Dom Capers, rearrange things back there and see if we can get better success and find the right pieces so they're not as bad as they were last season. Down to the 2nd, 5th round pick 182. Holy Christ. We're getting nose tackle from USC, Steve Tuikulavatu. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but whatever. Nose tackle. I do think they need to address the nose tackle spots. Currently, it's Christian Ringo. Who? So I think a guy like Steve Evers regarded as, top 5 nose tackle, but get that in the 5th round. 6'1", 331 pounds, 28 reps on the bench press. Pro comparison is Brandon Williams, who is exceptional nose tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. Just got paid. So I think a guy like Stevie V, upside, not nearly as a finished product, I don't think. But I think a guy like him coming in and learn, he will make a main roster. Getting a guy in the 5th round that can make your final 53 is great value. There's not a lot of depth at the nose tackle spot for the Green Bay Packers. So I think getting Stevie T would be great value here in the 5th round. Jumping to the 6th round pick, 212. I've getting Cameron Tom, the center from Southern Miss, 6'4", 290 pounds. He's a big guy, good, length to his name, very average run blocker, but he is a phenomenal pass blocker. And I think they need to add some depth to the center spot after they lost J.C. Tretter in free agency. They still have Corey Linsley, who's a very solid starting center, but I think adding and addressing some depth at the center spot, a guy that may not have a chance of making the roster, but he was my best center available here left in the 6th round. Have him come in and compete to get some depth back at the center spot because they had phenomenal depth. They probably the best center depth when they had J.C. Tretter and Corey Linsley on the roster. So reloading there a little bit could be in their best interest. And then finish with the draft, 7th round, pick 247. I've been going with a defensive end, Isaac Rochelle from Notre Dame, 6'4", 280 pounds, would be a defensive end in a 3-4 front, 4.89 40, 25 reps on the bench press. Pro comparison is Lawrence Guy, who was productive with the Baltimore Ravens, now signed with the New England Patriots, I believe, in free agency. But I think rotational guy might have a chance to make the main roster. A lot of people likes to see what he's a work hard guy, never going to test exceptionally well, even though the combine was not bad at all. But I think he can be a guy that can potentially, I don't really think he has potential to make the final 53, but he's probably best suited to land on a practice squad. And then you can see what he can offer to the team in the 2018-2019 season. And that's what a lot of teams try to get in the 7th round, project players that they can envision a future for while not being so good that other teams are going to want to try to poach them off the practice squad. So I think Rochelle here in the 7th round continue to add depth to the defensive end category because right now after Kenny Clark and Dean Lowry, you got not a lot of depth there. You got big old Mike Daniels, But outside of that, I think adding some depth to the defensive line could be in the best interest for the Green Bay Packers. So there you go, guys. That is my 7-round mock draft for the Green Bay Packers. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. If you're a first time stopping by, you're a Packer fan, or share this with your Packer fans on social media. That would be awesome if you want to subscribe. 100 likes on this video, and tomorrow we will upload the Pittsburgh Steelers mock draft, which will be pretty cool. I think that'll be a fun time. So until next time, guys, it's C4 saying peace out.